It was almost noon. Rain had started spitting against the sidewalks downtown. People moved fast, umbrellas up, heads down. Mia Jennings adjusted her grip on the brown paper bag, careful not to let the sauce containers shift. The law firm's name was etched in brushed steel above the revolving door: Caldwell, Price and Hartman LLP. Floor 34. Mia had been here before, just never upstairs. The lobby was quiet, carpeted, cold. She stepped up to the security desk and gave the receptionist a polite nod. Lunch delivery for conference room C. The receptionist barely looked up. Use the service elevator. Mia said nothing. Just turned left as directed. One floor up in the elevator, she stepped out and found the right suite. The glass doors were open. She walked in. Lunch, someone called from behind a desk. She nodded. A man in a fitted vest and tie, maybe early 40s, motioned toward the far hallway. You can leave it outside the boardroom. Someone will grab it. She walked down the hall, shoes silent against the carpet. At the end was a long, sleek glass door. Behind it, voices serious, fast-paced. A meeting in progress. She set the bag down gently. Just as she turned to go, someone stepped out, a woman, older, sharp-eyed, holding a stack of papers. You're not with Artisan Catering, the woman said, eyes narrowing. No, Mia replied evenly. I brought the food though. Well, that's fine. Just next time let them do the setup properly. These execs don't like opening boxes themselves. Mia didn't respond. She just looked past the woman. At the papers in her hand. Case materials. She knew this case. Knew it well. She nodded once. Understood. Then she walked away. 5 minutes later, she'd be back. But not with food. The elevator dinged again, same floor, same hallway. But this time, Mia wasn't carrying a bag. Just a slim leather folder tucked under her arm. She walked with quiet purpose. The receptionist glanced up again, confused. Excuse me, can I help you? Mia didn't stop. At the end of the hall, the boardroom door was ajar now. Inside, half a dozen people in suits surrounded a long polished table, papers spread out, tension in the air. Partners, associates, clients. The older woman from before, Marla Hartman, nameplate in front of her, was speaking sharply. Our position on the indemnity clause is weak unless we can cite a precedent that undercuts their leverage. Mia stepped in without knocking. Heads turned. Some confused, others annoyed. The man in the vest stood up halfway. Sorry, this is a closed session. Mia didn't flinch. It won't take long. She set the folder on the table. Opened it. Inside, annotated case law. Highlighted statutes. A printed memo with her name at the top, Mia Jennings, J.D., Legal Strategy Consultant. Hartman squinted. What is this? Your managing partner asked me to sit in, Mia said calmly, meeting her eyes. I was brought on to review the contract structuring for the Donner merger. Specifically the indemnity risks you just mentioned. Silence. Mia reached across and turned one of the documents toward them. Your clause is only weak if you assume the Marchant ruling applies. But it doesn't. Not after the 7th Circuit ruling last year. Page 3. The man in the vest took the memo. His eyes scanned the top. The name. The room was very quiet. Wait, someone started. You're the consultant? Mia nodded once. That's right. The woman who had told her to leave the food outside said nothing. Mia sat down slowly. No apology was offered. She wasn't expecting one. She just got to work. Mia pulled out a pen. Calm. Measured. She didn't rush to prove herself. Just waited as they skimmed the memo. Across the table, someone cleared his throat. Jason Liu, senior counsel. You're saying we can reverse their position based on a new precedent? Mia didn't look at him right away. She was watching Hartman, who hadn't said a word since sitting down again. Then she nodded. The Renshaw versus Delmar case. Decided last August. It limits the scope of third-party indemnification unless liability is explicitly defined in the contract. She looked up. Your draft doesn't define it. Hartman leaned back slightly. The silence wasn't resistance anymore. It was recalculation. Someone else, a junior associate maybe, whispered, how did we miss that? Because you didn't expect someone like her to bring it in. Hartman finally spoke. You're with Caldwell? Mia's tone stayed even. No. I run an independent consultancy. I specialize in liability structure and regulatory risk. Your firm contracted me 2 weeks ago. Hartman blinked. Jason frowned. I thought we were working with that boutique firm in D.C.? We are, Mia replied. They subcontracted to me. She said it plainly without emphasis. Like she wasn't trying to win anything. Jason leaned forward, curious now. So what's your recommendation? Mia flipped to a page in the memo. Amend the clause to mirror the Delmar limitations. Then include a supplementary rider defining the scope. You avoid exposure and keep negotiating power. For the first time since she sat down, nobody looked at her clothes. Or her face. Or her age. Just the words. The work. Hartman finally nodded. Once. Slowly. Let's hear her out. And just like that, Mia had the room. But not because they gave it to her. Because she took it. Quietly. Completely. Mia stood now, moving to the side of the room where a whiteboard waited half-covered in scribbled bullet points from earlier. She didn't ask for permission. She erased them. Behind her, chairs creaked as people shifted, surprised. She picked up the marker and wrote 2 words in clean, block letters. Defined exposure. Then drew a box beneath it. Here's what you're giving away with the current language, she said, turning slightly, gesturing toward the board. And here's what you could be holding onto if you'd structured it right. No one interrupted. Even Hartman watched closely. Mia spoke clearly, outlining risk scenarios and mergers, the domino effect of vague indemnity language, the cost of trying to litigate your way out after the fact. Her voice didn't rise. No dramatic tone shifts. Just the kind of confidence that comes from having done the work in rooms that looked just like this, even if she hadn't always been invited in. Someone near the end of the table whispered, "She's good." Jason Liu was already typing. Mia paused long enough to let them absorb the last diagram, then capped the marker and stepped back. "I've already revised your draft with the recommended language. If you move on it today, you'll get ahead of their response. Wait, and they'll set the tone." Silence again. But now it felt different. Less about surprise. More about respect. Mia looked around the room. "Questions?" Hartman glanced at her junior associate, who looked both stunned and impressed. Then back at Mia. "No," she said. "Just send me the full revision." Mia nodded. "Already did. It's in your inbox." No one said anything else right away. And they didn't need to. They'd misread her from the moment she walked in. Now they were listening. And Mia was just getting started. The meeting wrapped without ceremony. Chairs slid back. Papers shuffled. Conversations hushed. No one really knew what to say to Mia, so most didn't say anything at all. Jason Liu offered a quiet thanks before slipping out. Hartman gave a short nod. Professional. Cautious. Mia collected her folder. Didn't rush. Didn't look for acknowledgement. As she stepped into the hallway, she heard footsteps behind her. It was the man in the vest, the one who'd told her to leave the food outside. He caught up, trying to make his voice sound casual. "Hey. Miss Jennings, right?" Mia turned slightly. "That's right." He cleared his throat. "I didn't realize you were. I thought you were just..." She let him flounder. No reason to help. Finally, he gave up. "That was impressive work in there." Mia offered a polite smile. "Thank you." He lingered, unsure what to do with the discomfort now hanging between them. We don't usually bring in outside consultants like that." Hartman's pretty guarded. Mia raised an eyebrow. "That a problem?" No, not at all. Just caught us off guard." She nodded once. People don't like surprises in law firms. But maybe they should get used to them. He didn't answer. Just stepped aside as she walked past. In the lobby, the same receptionist who'd directed her to the service elevator looked up and did a double take. Mia didn't stop. She pushed through the glass doors, stepped into the misty air, and walked to the curb where her car was waiting. She didn't need to explain who she was anymore. They'd figure it out. One boardroom at a time. Back in her apartment that evening, Mia dropped her keys on the counter and kicked off her shoes. The folder went straight to the desk. She didn't need to look at it again, everything that mattered had already been said. She opened her laptop instead, not for work, but for a file she'd started months ago. A long list of notes and moments. Instances she hadn't said anything at the time. Not because she didn't have the words, but because it wouldn't have changed anything then. Today had been different. She typed a new entry. Boardroom. April 5th, assumed to be staff. Redirected to service elevator. Delivered analysis that shifted merger direction. Spoke exactly 112 words before the room stopped questioning me. Then she closed the file. This wasn't revenge. She didn't want their embarrassment. She wanted change. Still, a part of her couldn't shake the looks, the ones people gave her after realizing what she knew, after realizing who she was. Not angry looks. Not even guilty ones. Just stunned. Because for them, the revelation always came too late. She made tea. Let it steep while she opened her next client file. No celebration. No pat on the back. Just the next case. The next meeting. The next room where someone would make the same mistake. And she'd be ready for them. Again. 2 weeks later, Mia walked into another downtown office, this one sleeker, more polished, all glass and chrome. A different firm. Different city. But the air felt the same. Reception smiled tight. Asked her to wait in the side area. Didn't offer water. At the back, 2 young associates passed by, talking low. One glanced at her, looked away. She recognized the glance. The "you must be in the wrong place" glance. She didn't move. At 11:01, a door opened. A man in a dark blue suit stepped out, scanning the lobby until he saw her. "Mia Jennings?" She stood. He hesitated just half a second before regaining his professional smile. "We weren't expecting." He stopped himself. Mia waited. He tried again. "We thought Jennings and Company was sending someone from the DC office." "They did," Mia said simply. "I'm based out of both." "Ah. Okay. Right this way." He led her down a corridor of closed doors and low whispers. She caught a glimpse of a woman in a meeting room watching her through the glass. Once inside the client room, she placed her folder on the table. Same process. Same tone. But before she began, she paused and looked around the room. 3 partners. 1 junior associate. All white. All quiet. I assume you've read the brief, Mia said, her voice calm. A few nods. She opened the folder. Then let's get into it. We'll start with the part you got wrong. The junior associate blinked. One of the partners frowned. Mia didn't flinch. Didn't soften it. This was the part where they'd expect her to ease in. She wasn't here for that. Let them adjust. She was done waiting for permission. 10 minutes in, the tone of the room had changed. No more crossed arms. No more tapping pens. The partner on the left, Travis, according to the nameplate, was now leaning forward, pen frozen midair. The associate kept sneaking glances at the notes Mia had spread across the table, the margins filled with questions she'd already answered before they were asked. Mia stayed steady. This clause, she said, pointing to the highlighted paragraph in their draft, isn't just vague. It invites litigation. And if it invites litigation, you lose leverage before negotiations even begin. Another pause. The third partner, middle-aged and silent until now, finally spoke. This is solid work. Who walked us through the original structure? Mia didn't answer. She just waited. The associate shifted uncomfortably. I think it was someone from corporate. This came down from our internal team. Mia closed the folder calmly. Then someone on your internal team misunderstood how these terms function internationally. The statement was blunt but not hostile. Just the truth. The man across from her exhaled and sat back, nodding slowly. All right. You clearly know your stuff. Mia gave a small nod in return. That's why you brought me in. It wasn't arrogance. It was a reminder. The room fell quiet again. But it wasn't resistance anymore. It was respect. Earned not by raising her voice, but by refusing to shrink. And this time nobody was wondering who she was. They were wondering how they ever doubted her. After the meeting, no one rushed out. The partners lingered, murmuring between themselves, occasionally glancing Mia's way. She busied herself packing up the folder, sliding the notes back into her case with practiced calm. The younger associate stood off to the side, eyes fixed on her, not quite bold enough to speak. Travis finally broke the silence. If you're available next quarter, we'd like to bring you in earlier in the process. Before these things get baked into the documents. Mia zipped her case. That's usually the better move. He nodded a little slower than necessary. We'll talk to legal ops. Make it happen. Mia turned to leave. No handshake. Just a quiet thank you from the woman by the door. In the hallway, the associate caught up with her. Hey, Ms. Jennings? Mia stopped. I just wanted to say. I'm sorry about earlier. I wasn't trying to be. He trailed off. She looked at him, expression unreadable. You weren't trying to be anything. You just were. He blinked, unsure if it was an accusation or a fact. Then she added, but you'll remember this next time. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I will. She gave him the faintest smile. Good. Mia walked out of the building into a stream of cabs and lunch crowds. Behind her, the firm's name glinted in the glass, shiny, polished, permanent. But inside? Something had shifted. Not enough to celebrate, but enough to make them watch who they dismissed next time. That was something. Later that week, Mia sat in a quiet cafe on the north side. Corner seat, back to the wall. Her laptop open, headphones in but not playing anything. Just enough to keep people from interrupting. Her inbox buzzed. A new message. Subject line, consultation request, referred by Caldwell, Price and Hartman. She paused. That wasn't the firm she just worked with. It was the first one, the one where she'd been mistaken for a delivery driver. She opened the email. Polite. Formal. Brief. Our team was impressed by your recent work on the Donner merger. We'd like to discuss a high-priority case requiring specialized strategy input. Please let us know your availability next week. No mention of what had happened in that boardroom. No apologies. No acknowledgments. Just the quiet recognition of value. Mia stared at the screen a moment, unreadable. Then typed back. Available Wednesday at 3 p.m. Send materials in advance. And this time, let the front desk know I'll be using the main elevator. She hit send. Closed the laptop. Took a sip of cold tea. They weren't changing because they wanted to. They were changing because they had to. That was fine with her. Change was change. Wednesday, 2:58 p.m. Mia stepped through the familiar lobby of Caldwell, Price and Hartman, the same polished tile underfoot, the same receptionist behind the desk. But this time, the response was different. Ms. Jennings, the woman stood up quickly. You're expected. 31st floor. Main elevator's ready. No hesitation. No delay. No side door detours. Mia nodded, said nothing, and walked to the elevator's glass-paneled, gold-trimmed, the ones they hadn't offered her before. 31 lit up red. Inside the elevator, she checked her reflection. Same quiet style. Navy blazer, soft blouse, slacks. No flash. No need for it. This time, it wasn't the clothes they noticed. It was the name. The doors opened into a private conference wing. A junior staffer was already waiting. Right this way, Ms. Jennings. The conference room had been prepared. Water poured. Materials printed. Seats arranged with one at the head of the table marked for her. No jokes. No awkward glances. Just silence. Respectful, careful silence. Hartman wasn't there this time, but two other senior partners were, along with a paralegal who looked a little too young to be in the room. Nervous, but watching Mia like she was studying a blueprint. Mia set her folder down, opened it calmly, and looked up. Let's begin. And they did. Quietly. Without the usual posturing. Because this wasn't about proving herself anymore. That had already happened. Now they were listening because they'd learned what it cost them when they didn't. Halfway through the meeting, Mia noticed the paralegal again. Young, black, maybe mid-20s. Crisp shirt, neatly parted hair, a legal pad filled with tiny, dense writing. She wasn't speaking, just watching Mia like she was seeing something she hadn't thought was possible until today. Mia kept going. Laid out risk angles, precedent paths, what the opposing counsel would likely do if pressured here versus here. She stayed focused, controlled. But that gaze never left her. When the meeting ended, the partners filed out with handshakes and firm nods. No one questioned anything she'd said. They just took notes and left, except the paralegal. She lingered, clutching her notebook. Mia noticed. You have a question? The woman hesitated, then stepped forward. No, just thank you. For how you handled this. For being in that seat. Mia gave a small smile. It's just a seat. Not when someone like you's in it. That gave Mia pause. Not because it surprised her, but because she remembered being that woman once. Sitting at the edge of someone else's authority. Trying to imagine a version of herself that could belong there too. She nodded. What's your name? Ari. Mia held her gaze. Keep watching, Ari. Then take your turn. Ari blinked, nodded once quickly. Mia turned and walked out. Not to applause. Not to praise. Just to the quiet knowledge that someone had seen her. And that maybe next time someone wouldn't have to. The next morning, Mia was halfway through editing a case draft when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. She answered. Ms. Jennings. The voice was controlled, familiar. This is Marla Hartman. Mia sat back in her chair. Ms. Hartman. A pause. I heard the meeting yesterday went well. It did. Hartman cleared her throat. I wanted to say, I appreciate the work you've done, and I'd like to discuss a more permanent advisory role with the firm. One with direct client access and departmental input. Mia didn't answer right away. It wasn't the offer itself that surprised her. It was the tone. Measured, careful, and just shy of apologetic. You're looking to change your internal process, Mia said, not as a question. Yes, Hartman replied. We've had blind spots, and I'd prefer not to wait for another wake-up call. Mia considered it. Not for the title. Or the money. That wasn't the point. If I do this, she said slowly, I do it my way. No hand-holding. No optics. You want real change, you get it. But it's going to feel uncomfortable. That's why I'm calling you, Hartman replied. Another pause. I'll think about it, Mia said. I'll send over terms. Understood. They hung up. No backpedaling. No flattery. Just quiet recognition that what they'd assumed once now belonged to the past. Mia turned back to her screen and started drafting. By Friday, the formal proposal was in Hartman's inbox. No fluff. No corporate language to make it easier to swallow. Mia outlined 3 things. 1. Autonomy, she'd choose which cases she advised on. No token appearances. No panels for show. 2. Equity review, every department's hiring and advancement stats. No excuses, no filters. 3. A seat at the table, not at the end, not as a guest. As a decision maker. No dotted line roles. No silent consultant cloak. When the firm's executive committee met to review it, there was tension. One partner called the terms bold. Another said it was unusual. But no one said no, because they all knew this wasn't about convenience. It was about credibility. Hartman sent the approval herself. We accept the terms. Effective immediately. Mia didn't smile when she read it. She just forwarded the email to her assistant with a note. Add to calendar. First review meeting. No coffee. No introductions. Just work. In offices across the city, her name began to pass from one partner to another. Some with curiosity. Some with caution. But always now with respect. They hadn't just hired a consultant. They'd invited someone who made them see what they'd been trained to ignore. And Mia? She never raised her voice. She just didn't lower it. A month later, Mia walked through the firm's offices again. This time not as a visitor, not as a surprise. She passed by reception without stopping. No one redirected her. No one questioned her. She had a badge now. Not the kind they scanned. The kind they whispered about after meetings. That's her. The one who. She didn't need the rest of the sentence. In the break room, she caught sight of Ari again, the young paralegal from weeks before. Ari stood near the fridge, mid-conversation, then noticed Mia and went quiet. Not out of fear. Out of something else. Recognition. Mia nodded once, and kept walking. Upstairs, her office was small. By choice. No glass walls. No skyline view. Just shelves, notes, case law stacked neatly, and a single framed quote beside the door. Not famous. Just something she wrote herself. People don't need to see who you are. They need to feel it when they try to look past you. She sat down, opened her laptop, and resumed work. No fanfare. Outside her door, voices passed. I heard she turned down a board seat last year. She doesn't even take interviews. She made half the team rewrite their policy deck, and thanked them for the opportunity to grow. Rumors. Soft, uncertain. She ignored them, because her legacy wouldn't be what people said about her. It would be what they no longer said about women who looked like her. What they stopped assuming. What they finally started seeing. Without needing to be told.